What happened in this Senate hearing shocked everyone, because one simple question about phone records suddenly changed everything, and the Attorney General clearly didn't expect it. Senator John Kennedy leaned forward. The room went silent. He wasn't asking about policy. He was asking about power. "Let's suppose I'm appointed special counsel," Kennedy began, "and I want the phone records of a sitting United States senator." He paused. "They're not just going to give them to me, are they?" Attorney General Pam Bondi responded calmly. "No, Senator, of course not." But Kennedy wasn't finished. He pressed harder. "What do I have to show to get those records?" He repeated the phrase like a hammer. "Did I mention it was a sitting United States senator?" Bondi explained the legal standard. Probable cause, good cause, subpoena requirements, standard procedure. But Kennedy's point wasn't about law. It was about something darker, because reports suggested phone records from 8 sitting senators had already been obtained, without warning, without transparency. Kennedy's voice sharpened. If phone companies didn't challenge those subpoenas, they better have a damn good reason. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Bondi deflected. "I can't discuss the facts of this particular case." But this wasn't about one case anymore. It was about accountability, and the room felt it. Then Kennedy pivoted, and the tension spiked. He brought up Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnik, a neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein, a man who called Epstein the greatest blackmailer ever in a New York Post interview. "Have you reviewed that transcript?" Kennedy asked Bondi. "I have not reviewed the transcript," Bondi replied. "But I saw the clip," Kennedy pressed. "Had the Justice Department interviewed Lutnik about those claims?" "No, Senator. Do you plan to?" The silence spoke louder than words. Because if Lutnik's claim was true, it changed everything. Epstein wasn't just trafficking victims. He may have been running one of the biggest blackmail operations in modern history. Secret recordings, compromising material, powerful people, trapped in a web. And the DOJ hadn't even interviewed the man who said it out loud. Critics called it negligence. Supporters called it procedure, but survivors called it betrayal. Kennedy wasn't done. He shifted back to the phone records. The hypothetical became a mirror. "If I were your special counsel," he said, "trying to get records of a sitting senator, would I tell you as Attorney General?" Bondi hesitated. They better have. But when Kennedy asked if Attorney General Garland was informed about the 8 senators, no answer. When he asked if FBI Director Wray was briefed, deflection. Pattern recognized. Every question met with a wall, every answer designed to delay, every deflection protecting someone. And that's when the frustration in the room became visible, because this wasn't just about legal technicalities. It was about trust. The Epstein scandal refuses to die, not because people love conspiracy, but because the questions remain unanswered. Who else was involved? Who benefited? Who protected whom? Governments release documents, but redactions hide more than they reveal. Hearings are held, but key witnesses never appear. Promises of transparency are made, but the full story stays locked away. Survivors demand justice. Lawmakers demand answers. The public demands truth. Yet every time new files drop, something strange happens. Instead of closure, more questions emerge. Why? Because the Epstein case isn't just about one man. It's about a system. A network that spanned elite circles, global travel, and powerful institutions. A network that operated in plain sight for years. And even after Epstein's death, the ripple effects never stopped. Kennedy's confrontation with Bondi exposed a deeper tension. The Justice Department claims thorough investigation, but many people aren't convinced. The contrast between authority and accountability keeps the controversy alive. Consider the pattern. Phone records obtained without challenge. Claims of blackmail never pursued. Documents released with critical gaps, witnesses available but never interviewed. Each piece feels like a puzzle missing its center. And when uncertainty meets secrecy, people start asking harder questions. Not out of paranoia, out of principle. Because if investigators aren't willing to follow every lead, no matter how uncomfortable, what does that say about justice? Bondi's responses during the hearing followed a familiar script. "I can't discuss pending investigations. That's hypothetical. We follow the law." Emotionally empty. Survivors don't need legal definitions. They need answers. They need to know their pain wasn't ignored. They need to believe the system works for everyone, not just the powerful. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The Epstein scandal has become a symbol, not just of crime, but of two-tier justice. For years, critics have argued that wealth and influence buy protection. Ordinary citizens face consequences. Powerful figures face procedures. Whether that perception is accurate or not, the Epstein case fuels the belief, because despite the scale of the crimes, very few people in Epstein's network have faced charges. Kennedy referenced a promise. The era of two-tier justice should be over. But when high-profile cases stall, when documents stay sealed, when witnesses remain unheard, that promise feels hollow. The unanswered questions pile up. Who knew? Who participated? Who protected? And why does the truth feel so hard to reach? These questions cross political lines. They aren't partisan. They're human. They strike at a core belief that justice should apply equally to everyone. Until those questions are answered, the Epstein scandal will hang over the system like a shadow. And that's why this hearing mattered. Not for the legal arguments, not for the procedural debates, but for what it revealed about power. When a senator presses an attorney general about phone records, about blackmail claims, about investigative priorities, he's not just asking about facts, he's asking about values. Do we pursue truth even when it's uncomfortable? Do we follow evidence even when it leads to powerful places? Do we protect victims even when it threatens influence? Bondi's answers suggested caution. Kennedy's questions demanded courage. The room felt that tension. Viewers felt it too. Because this wasn't theater, it was a test. And the results? Still unfolding. Because the Epstein story isn't finished. New documents may emerge, new witnesses may speak, new hearings may be held. But the core question remains, will the full truth ever be told? Or will some pieces stay hidden forever? There's no confirmed evidence of a global blackmail operation, but speculation persists because details remain unclear. And when secrecy surrounds a case this large, people wonder, what are they protecting? Kennedy's confrontation wasn't about one interview. It wasn't about one set of phone records. It was about whether investigators will follow every lead no matter where it goes. That's the standard survivors deserve. That's the standard the public expects. That's the standard justice requires. The Senate hearing showed something important. Even years later, lawmakers are still demanding answers. Survivors are still demanding justice. The public is still demanding transparency. Until those demands are met, the Epstein case remains unfinished. Not in the eyes of the law, but in the eyes of millions. And the biggest question still lingers. If Epstein really held secrets about powerful people, how much of that story has the world actually seen? And how much is still waiting to be revealed? One thing's certain, the silence won't last forever, because every question asked, every document requested, every voice raised pushes the truth closer to daylight. The files exist, the records exist, the witnesses exist. What's missing isn't evidence, it's the will to use it. And that's a choice, not a coincidence, not a complication, a choice. So watch what happens next. Because when power meets pressure, something has to give. The question is, what will break first? The silence or the system protecting it?